Hello and welcome to our little video series about publishing your virtual waiting room queue. And this is in context with virtual waiting rooms and using XcooBee tools to create them and manage them effectively. This is the second video of the series. Here we will focus on the publishing part of the already created waiting room on the previous video. What we will need is actually fairly simple. We will need a Google account, and since we're continuing from the previous video, we will need the XcooBee virtual waiting room sheet that was created in the previous video. You can create one again. We will also create a public sheet, and obviously we will need a website to publish the information on so that your visitors or patients can see their line in the queue. So let's get started. Here's our existing sheet, which basically has these people in our waiting room. As you see, there's a few number of people that are waiting to be served. We will actually leave that as is. The good thing is we won't do much with the sheet itself. We will create actually a public sheet that we will publish instead, and that will contain all the links to this one and the permission. And it will we will make sure that that one is read-only, so that the information only is first of all limited in what is on there, as well as that it's only read-only. So let's go there and create one. We do so by just going into our Google Drive, and we will create a completely new sheet. In our case, we are going to call that public sheet. Once I'm ready to do so, 1 second. Public sheet. Wonderful. And we will rename this first sheet here to public. So this is our public sheet itself, maybe. And then we will add another sheet, and we are going to call this one private. So this is where we will make some data available from our virtual waiting room, and we will hide it once it's there. Okay, I've switched back to my virtual waiting room real quick. We will actually start naming two named ranges. One is for the first name, one for the phone number. So I will pick just the column header over here, right click it, and select one option to define a named range. And our named range is very simple: first name, no spaces, all lowercase. And I'm going to say done on this. Similarly, I'm going to pick the phone, and I'm going to name this something. We say define name range. We're going to call that phone, also lowercase, no spaces, and click done. So this will help us in writing the functions on our public sheet and make it easier for us to understand and read. Okay, let us switch back to our public sheet. Here we are. The public sheet had two subsheets here. One of them was called public, one of them was in private. We're going to flip to the private one, and in this column A1, we will enter another formula. And the name of the formula is called import range, and it will require a spreadsheet URL and a range string. So let's get the first part, which is really our virtual waiting room's URL, which you can see up top. We're just going to, okay, maybe I need to, 1 second, I think you guys can see it. Here we go. Here is my full browser. I must have just did in the header here. The URL is obviously in the URL title area. I'm just going to right click and copy it, or copy it using your command line. We are going to flip back to my public sheet, and we start with a double quote and then type in or paste the URL here. And that's it for the first part of the formula. The second part of the formula is asking for a range string. So we're going to say comma, and the range string normally starts with the spreadsheet name itself. So let's go find that one out, and that is, in our case, Rosa's Bakey waiting. I didn't do a good job. I'm just going to double click on it, make it copy. When you create your waiting rooms, I hope you'll do a better job and spell it a little better than I have here in mine. I am going to flip back here to my formula in my public sheet, but on the private subsheet here, and paste that. And it is normally then separated with it was an exclamation mark. And now what I need is one of the named ranges. In my case, I'm going to use first name. and it should say, hey, that's a problem because I need to give access for these sheets to communicate, and I'm going to say allow access. And here are my first names from, I'm just going to make this bolder, from my actual waiting room. So I am going to repeat this kind of process where I am going to use the import range command, and I'm going to use import range command on this one rather than using first name. Let's use the other defined range, which we called phone. So there we go, and it should pull the phone numbers of the people that are in my waiting room. And this is always available on my private sheet. So I am going to do one thing here that is interesting. I'm at this point, I'm done with my private sheet. I'm going to hide it. Okay, this sheet is hidden and there's ways of pulling it back, but right now it's hidden. So we're going to go, and we are already automatically on my public sheet. In this cell B1, I would like to display the number of people in the waiting room or in the virtual waiting room. And the way I do that is I enter the equal sign saying a formula is following. The formula that I want to use is count A, and what I am counting is the first column on my private sheet. So to type that information, I would basically type in private and then exclamation mark A colon A, and that will count all the entries in the column. Since there is also the column header, we need to subtract one. So this should be the number of people in my queue. I would like to format that a little nicer, so I'm just going to make it slightly bigger, maybe 24, maybe give it a color that's different. How about this? And we also want to maybe give it a title here, currently waiting. And maybe currently waiting should also be a little bigger and maybe also a different color. And we will maybe span this a few columns by merging the cells. Let's do that. Merge cells, merge all, and then obviously we want to, all right, there we go, currently waiting. Maybe we'll center this as well. Okay, so now we know how many are currently waiting. Maybe we want to also display the current queue. So we will say the next one here. We will type something, and I'm not going to go too fancy. Maybe we just make it a little bigger, and let's center it as well if we can. There we go. So from here on, we want to basically display the waiting queue, but obviously not give everybody the full phone numbers and so forth. So the way we are going to do that for our purposes, and you can modify as you need to, is use the last four digits of the phone number and then use the first two letters of the first name and append it to it. So this will be done using a combination of functions available in the spreadsheet. The easiest way to do that is unfortunately to make our sheet visible again that I just hidden and do a column there. So we will add a column called Q here, make it bold, and we will enter the formula here. For our purposes, we will use something like concatenate, and then we get assistance from Google Sheet, and we will use another formula in here. We will use the right formula, which is basically telling us to get the right characters, and we will use the right formula in the phone number, and we will say get us the last four digits of the phone number, and we will also want to use part of the name. So in there we're going to use the left, and the left of the name is A2 and only two characters. And if I type this all in right, it should give me something like 2565JO, and I can just copy it down the line. Here we go. So there we go. So anytime a new person comes into the queue, we will actually see another combination of phone number and first name that we will use on the public sheet. Before I hide this again, let me make sure that everything works correctly in the public sheet. I'm going to switch back there for a second. The function that will retrieve the data from the private sheet and display it here in our column in the public sheet is called array formula. So I can start typing it by using equal and then the array formula. And as I'm doing so, Google Sheet will give me some help. In our case, we're looking at the private sheet, and we're looking at the column C. So I'm just going to say take the whole of column C and display it for me right here. There we go. The whole of column C actually starts with the word Q. So let's make that one a little bigger, maybe format it slightly nicer. We'll make it 12, and then maybe we'll make these also bigger. 24. Oh, that's a little too big. So let's do maybe 14. Well, that's 14. So we know that if you want to be nice about it, you can actually write a number next to it, and then so people can easily judge from there. And can basically extend this easily by doing this. But formatting is really up to you. I'm just displaying the basic conditions here. So now we have actually all the components that we need. I'm going to hide my private sheet again. All of them will communicate independently. Let's hide my sheet one more time. It's hidden. And let's see what we need to do in order to publish everything. Another thing I would recommend before publication is making sure that we remove everything that is not necessary, including in the views, the formula bars, and so forth, and the menus. The way you publish the sheet for us, we are going to go to File, and we are going to say Publish to the Web. And then it's going to ask whether it's the entire document and what we want to do. We actually want to do embedding, and we only wanted to embed the public sheet. And we are going to make sure that everything is automatically published. And we're going to click the word publish here, and we're going to confirm everything. Once we do so, we get an embed code here from Google that we will use on our website. At any one point that we want to stop publishing, we can just come back here and click the Stop Publishing button. Now that I have the embed code, I'm actually going to start hiding a whole bunch more stuff. We are going to view grid lines. We're going to take that off. We are also going to freeze some top rows. And let me see whether I can move this. So that way, when people are browsing this, they will have this kind of experience without moving the currently waiting part of it. Also hiding the menu system so that we have a minimized view of everything. Okay, we are ready to publish this now, or take the embed code that we had and put on our website. And here it is. I'm having opening up my test website here, which is a by accident shopping site, but it can be anything. It could be your practice site, it could be a bakery site. In my case, it's a WordPress-based one, but whatever your system is, as long as you can get to the back end of your website, you can actually copy and paste the formula. And in my case, I'm going to go to Pages, and I have already created a blank waiting room for me. And the word waiting room, here we go. I'm going to just edit it. And when I edit it, since I'm using WordPress, I actually want to go to the text mode here, not the visual mode. And I'm just going to copy and paste, or actually I copied it. I just need to paste the iframe string that I've copied from Google. It looks like this. And I want to actually add a slightly more dimensionality to it by adding width and height specifically to my site. You may need to adjust based on your need. That's all I need to do. So I'm going to say update, and now I can actually view the page. And this is my current waiting room, as you see on my on my public website that once people have come to visit, they can actually see their status in the queue. Let's add another person and see what happens. In my case, I'm just going back to XcooBee, to our original waiting room project. I'm going to click on the cloud and generate a link, and I'm going to copy it, clicking on this icon, and I'm going to pretend that I am a website visitor that clicks on a button that we can also place on the website saying, please register. Okay, here we are back on my WordPress editor. I have taken the link from XcooBee and I'm added it right below the iframe from my Google code, and see what happens now when I update this page and look at the updated page in my waiting room. There we are again. And as you see, I have a link at the bottom that says please register, and I'm going to click on that right now. Let me do that. And I get to the registration page for XcooBee. Here I quickly filled in the information and I'm just going to click submit. And that is all the end user experience need to be. So we can go back to our waiting room and see what happens. After a little bit of wait, you will see that Trent has actually shown up as number 6 in the waiting room. And the way we recognize that obviously is because of the phone number I've entered and the TR for Trent. That's all we need to do. So the data is being synchronized and sent back and forth. If you have different systems or different backends and have questions, please reach out to us via our support, or if you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, we are available there as well. We have shown you at this point the concept of a virtual waiting room. The second part of the video mainly dealt with Google Sheets, and Google Sheets can be a little more complicated than other things. But once you get the hang of it, you find out that it can actually be very helpful way of publishing information. We are showing you how to make the communication happen and publish it to your website. Again, any questions, please reach out to us. And thanks again for watching.